Paolo Banchero in his second NBA season at 21 years old was named an All-Star and shined bright on the biggest stage in his playoff debut, though this season hasn't gone as planned. Banchero tore his oblique 5 games into the year and then missed more than 2 months. However, he's now played 20 games since returning from the injury, and his inefficiency as a scorer has been alarming. I'm going to take a deeper dive into what has led to some of these concerns and some ways both the Magic and Banchero can approach things the rest of the year. Banchero started this season on a roll, averaging 29 points on nearly 50% shooting over his first 5 games. This included a notable performance against the Pacers, where he became the second youngest player in NBA history to record at least 50 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in a game, though in the fifth game, he tore his oblique, and that's where things get tricky. A torn oblique is a tear or strain in the abdominal muscles that's much more common in baseball due to the twisting motions of batters or pitchers, though there are different levels of tears, and in the case of Banchero, he had one that kept him out multiple months. While some injuries involve surgery and then immediately focusing on the rehab process, this is not the case with an oblique tear, as rest is key. So Banchero was likely not able to go about his typical training regimen or do any on-court workouts for weeks. That extended absence would make it very tough for any athlete to get back to their typical form immediately. One recent basketball example of this is Desmond Bane, who earlier this season suffered an oblique strain that kept him out for 2 weeks. Though in his first 2 weeks back, he shot just 35% from the floor before getting back to playing like we're accustomed to seeing. Banchero has played 20 games since returning from the injury, and the results have been rough. In that stretch, he's averaged over 21 points per game, but across all metrics has been very inefficient doing so, though his shot selection plays a role in that. Listed at 6'10", 250, the 22-year-old when at his best can bully opponents of various sizes and get to the rim. So far this season, Banchero has taken just 20% of his shots 0 to 3 feet from the rim, which is a career low, though he's seen an increase in mid-range jumpers, which have accounted for 30% of his shot attempts so far. The problem is, Banchero's not a knockdown shooter from there, as he's shooting 38% from both 10 to 16 feet and on long twos, but he could be settling for these shots as he gets acclimated following the injury. Here Paolo brings the ball up, and as he gets to the right wing, Goga Bitadze sets a screen on Draymond Green to force a switch. This leaves Banchero in isolation against Kevon Looney. When fully healthy, Banchero has the movement to get downhill and punish this mismatch. Instead, he lulls Looney to sleep with the crossover before pulling up for the contested mid-range jumper, with 15 seconds left on the shot clock. This shot that early in the shot clock is one opponents are happy to live with. Paolo has looked more like himself in recent games, getting downhill and drawing free throws at a high rate, though he has missed his fair share of shots you'd expect him to make around the rim. While some of that can be due to getting acclimated to finishing through contact, these issues look even worse due to the Magic's outside shooting, or lack thereof. The Magic are currently shooting 30.5% from 3, which would be the worst mark by a team since 2013. The lack of floor spacing threats could be one of the key reasons Banchero at times can be challenged by 2 or 3 defenders when he reaches the paint, though that also means the Magic could find different ways to utilize him. The third-year pro typically handles the ball when on the floor, which means there aren't many possessions where his shots can come from playing off the ball, though Banchero has shown promise on this in small samples, including as a cutter where he ranks in the 85th percentile on a per-possession basis this season. Here Cole Anthony has the ball as Banchero and Wendell Carter Jr. are on the elbows. As he passes it to Carter, Paolo sets a back screen on Cole Anthony's defender, which now forces a switch. Though you can see as this happens, Banchero now has a clear path to the basket. Carter drops it off to him, and you could see Paolo has momentum and space to operate before finishing off the layup. Another area where Banchero can be utilized more frequently is coming off screens. The sample size over this season and last is quite small, as it's just over 50 possessions, but Paolo's been efficient on them, and it can be a way for him to either get downhill or one of his mid-range jumpers in rhythm. Banchero here passes to Anthony Black and sets a screen before drifting to the left wing, though as Jalen Suggs handles the ball, notice Black goes to the left elbow to set a screen. Now Paolo catches the ball, and Jalen Brunson on the switch has a lot of ground to cover on the closeout. Paolo attacks the closeout, and gets to the free throw line where he gets into his shooting motion before Julius Randle can get a hand up and knocks down the jumper. Franz Wagner brings the ball up on this possession, and you could see Banchero work his way to the free throw line defended by Aaron Gordon. Though shortly after, Goga Batadze sets a screen, and it allows Paolo to come off a curl and receive the ball. Now he's guarded by Nikola Jokic in what's essentially an isolation possession. Banchero creates contact, and off the spin move gets into the floater that drops in with the friendly roll. Now here's the elephant in the room that has been a hot topic among NBA fans of late. The Magic have been drastically better with Franz Wagner on the floor compared to Banchero so far this season. Given the differences in how Wagner plays, this isn't incredibly surprising. Wagner has shown he can be dangerous playing off the ball and getting downhill, and his shot selection is quite different than Paolo's. While Banchero takes more mid-range jumpers, Franz this season has lived within 10 feet of the basket, where he's taken nearly 57% of his shots. Per Basketball Reference, Franz is also having the best season of his career on shots 3 to 10 feet from the hoop, shooting 47% from there. Unlike Paolo, Wagner, when in the paint, can rely heavily on touch shots. Per NBA.com, Wagner has made 46% of his 126 shot attempts charted as floaters this season. Focusing more on this type of shot could also help Banchero, as it could be utilized as a counter to the mid-range game, or prevent multiple defenders from trying to meet him at the basket. So what should we expect from Banchero the rest of this season? He has appeared to be moving more like himself in recent games, and has had flashes of scoring how we've fully become accustomed to while drawing a ton of free throws. Though he might not truly be himself until next season, where he can make up for the months where he was sidelined. However, this can let the Magic tinker the rest of the season. They could incorporate more scenarios with Wagner as a primary ball handler playing alongside Banchero, who could get more reps playing off the ball, whether it's as a cutter, coming off screens, or as a roll man. Though having two 6'10 players who can create for themselves and others is a good problem to have, and minutes could be staggered. Seeing some of the shots and spacing Paolo has had to rely on, it can also drive home the emphasis that needs to be put on adding shooting and ideally another playmaker. Remember, progress isn't always linear, and Banchero's still only 22 years old. This season hasn't gone how he or the Magic would have hoped, but Wagner's offensive leap on top of what we've seen from a fully healthy Banchero indicates that this could be a very dangerous duo for the foreseeable future. If you made it this far, thank you. And if you enjoyed the video, don't hesitate to like and subscribe to stay up to date on my basketball analysis throughout the 2024-25 season.